Good day! During the Spanish colonial period in the Philippines, there were several revolts against the Spanish colonial government. There are different causes why revolts have been initiated by some Filipino leaders. It can be due to political, religious, or personal causes. Other revolts were also due to hated tribute and forced labor. Since the Spanish colonized the Philippines for about 333 years, about 200 revolts against them arose since the 16th century until the 19th century. There were 6 revolts occurred during the 16th century. First is the Dagami Revolt. It was led by Chief Dagami of Gabi on May 23, 1565. Dagami and 4 chiefs killed Pedro de Arana, a personal company of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. More Spaniards were killed. Thus, Legazpi accused some of the Datus and Naraha Tupas that they were behind the killings. Tupas betrayed Dagami to Legazpi. Thus, he was condemned to be drawn and quartered the next day. The Revolt of Lacandula and Sulaiman. A pact of peace and friendship was made with Adelantado Legazpi, who promised that Spain would recognize their patrimonial lands and treat their people fairly and well. But Legazpi died on August 20, 1572, and his successor, Governor de Levazaris, confiscated their lands. The Pampanga Revolt arose because some encomenderos deprived the native Kapampangans of their land inheritances. But the conspiracy was failed because a Filipino woman married to a Spanish soldier reported the plot to the Spanish authorities. The Conspiracy of the Maharlikas, or the Tondo Conspiracy. A plot by Tagalog and Kapampangan noblemen because of the desire of independence. The uprising failed when they were betrayed to the Spanish authorities by Antonio Surabao. Revolts against the tribute, or the Cagayan and Dingras revolts against the tribute, occurred in Cagayan and Ilocos Norte. This was led by Ilocanos, Imanags, and other Filipinos revolted against the abuses by tax collectors. Magalat's revolt, led by Magalat and his brother, incited rebellion against Spanish rule during the rule of Governor Tello. The brothers were kept in Manila as exiles. The Dominican missionaries persuaded Tello to pardon them. Thus, they were allowed to go home in Cagayan. Sooner, they incited the people to rebellion. Thus, they were assassinated in their own house. The revolt continued until the 17th century. Many revolts occurred in this century. The first is the Igorot Revolt, which happened in Cordillera. This revolt was short-lived, and this is due to the refusal of the Igorots to accept new religion. The Chinese Revolt was incited because of the killings of many Chinese merchants. The remaining Chinese inhabitants of Manila set fire to Legarda and Binondo. Revolt of the Irayas in northern Isabela and in Cagayan Valley. Led by Gabriel Dayag and Felix Catubay, due to oppression of Spanish officials, it ended without a fight because of the advice of Father Santo Tomas to surrender. The Tamblot Revolt was led by Babaylan priest Tamblot, who wants to abandon Christianity in Bohol and return to old religious faith of their forefathers. But this was suppressed by the Spaniards and Cebuanos. Bangkao's revolt was initiated by chieftain of Limusawa, Bangkao. He incited the people of Carigara Leyte in defense of their old gods and religion. Itneg Revolt or Manday Revolt, led by Miguel Lanab and Alababan, who were baptized as Catholics against their will in Itneg or Mandaya tribe of Kapintalan. The Ladja Revolt was led by a descendant of Raha Matanda named Ladja. This was instigated because of Spanish oppression. Sumuroy revolt was initiated at the town of Palapag in northern Samar, led by Agustin Sumuroy on June 1, 1649 over Polo ay Servicio or forced labor system in Samar. In October 1660, the Maniago Revolt was initiated by Francisco Maniago, a valiant warlord from Mexico, Pampanga. This was instigated in Bacoor, Cavite, and Pampanga due to failure of the officials to pay rice purchased and repeated requirements for Polo ay Servicio. The Malong Revolt was instigated in Binalatogan, Pangasinan by Andres Malong, secondary to the quarrel of Father Gorospe and Malong. This was followed by revolts headed by Pedro Compas and Juan Palaris. A part of the chain of the Malong's revolt was the Ilocos Revolt, led by Don Pedro Almazan from Lawag, Ilocos Norte. This is due to his personal ambition to become the king of Ilocos. The Panay Revolt in 1663 took place in Oton Panay, led by Tapan for desire to put up a modified form of Christianity. Zambal Revolt was held in Zambales, wherein a group of chieftains from this area refused to accept the authority of the crown over the realm. The 18th century also contributed several revolts. The first is the Agrarian Revolt of 1745. The uprising of this revolt were the result of the refusal of the Spanish priests to return the lands of the indigenous landowners. This took place in Bulacan, Morong, Cavite, and Laguna, led by Machenza. The Goa Revolt is the longest revolt against the Spaniards because Father Morales refuses Christian burial of his brother in Bohol. Silang Revolt was led by couple Diego and his wife Gabriela because of the wanting to expel the Spaniards in Ilocos. Diego was assassinated, but the revolt was continued by his wife, but eventually was executed at Vigan. The Palaris Revolt took place in Pangasinan when Juan de la Cruz Palaris instigated the revolt due to some demands in the reform, especially the changing of the local officials. The 19th century revolts. The Basri Revolt, or the Ambaristo Revolt. This was undertaken from September 16 to 18, 1807. This was led by Pedro Mateo and Salarogo Ambaristo in Ilocos Norte. The revolt was instigated since the Ilocanos were forced to buy basi from government stores. Novales Conspiracy. Novales became disoriented with Spanish government when Peninsulares were shipped to the Philippines to replace Creole enforcers. The revolt started on June 1, 1823. The Pule Revolt. The revolt started on June 1840 to November 1843 and was led by Apolinario de la Cruz, or more commonly known as Hermano Pule, in Quezon Province. He was denied to be admitted as a monk. Thus, he founded the religious brotherhood of Confradia de San Jose, but was dissolved by the government. The Cavite Mutiny. An uprising of military personnel of Fort San Felipe, the Spanish arsenal in Cavite, on January 20, 1872, led by Sarmiento La Madrid because of the resistance to pay taxes. All of these revolts failed for various reasons. Firstly, there was an absence of national consciousness to spark and sustain an uprising, and there was a lack of leaders to unite the islands. Because of the archipelagic nature of the Philippines, it was geographically impossible then to communicate among the leaders, and not to mention the superiority of the Spanish military over the native warriors, among others.